The purpose of my trip and our trip here in the United States this time is very simple. To exchange ideas and information on the questions to the interest of both of us, especially on the question of the means and ways to further improve our relations. China and the United States are both important countries, members of the international community. And we all, both, I think, shoulder great responsibility for peace, development, and cooperation in the whole world. So, on the whole, since the two countries normalized our relations about 40 years ago, the relations and cooperation between the two countries in general have developed very well. But still, we have come across problems after problems, and some problems are quite serious, some are less that serious. But we managed to do a good job in have our relations put on a right course, right track, with our trade developing very fast, our cooperation in other fields proceeding very well. For instance, our trade hit $456 billion US dollars last year, and we are going to top 500 billion this year. And we are sure we can make that with the efforts of both sides. All the problems or obstacles which are not so conducive to the development of the relations, we can certainly see some reports and some fallacies spread in the newspapers, such as cyber attack recently. And my friend this morning record some kind of names China has been given, such as what? Currency manipulator, job stealer, and
rules breaker.
Rules breaker.
And now the news, the one is cyber attacker.
Anyway, these kind of things are not popularly accepted. Just a few people who are trying to label China with. And we in China have tried to explain what the real situation is, and almost every time we succeeded. I think more or less we succeeded. But still, there exists some kind of root cause we think we should deal with. I mean, with the efforts of both sides, which we can make our relations established on a sound and solid foundations, and be free from disturbances of this kind or that kind. And that's why we are here, to have exchange of ideas and information with friends from all walks of life in America. And in the last 8 days, we have been to New York, we have been to Chicago, we have been to Dallas, and yesterday we came here. And every stop in the previous 3 stops, we have done our work quite well. We've met a lot of friends. We have had very useful exchange of ideas. the general impression we've got is that all of our American friends would like to see that our relations proceed smoothly, and the disputes or differences be resolved as quickly as possible. And they have also pledged, as we have, to work hard for the betterment of the relations in the days to come. And we have the confidence that with the joint efforts of the two sides, we can do our work better and better for the improvement of the relations from time to time. And of course, this morning we had a discussion with World Affairs Council people, and it was attended by several dozen important personages, and the discussion was also quite satisfactory to me, and I think to all the attenders. Anyway, we are very happy to be here in this campus, and very happy to see so many young faces, some Chinese descendants, quite Chinese, some quite American, maybe. And we are very happy. We think the exchange of students, the exchange of young people are very important for the future of our relations. If we can do a good job in this regard, and our relations will have a very good foundation to be laid on. Thank you very much.
Ambassadors, Joe, do you want to say something at the outset or wait for questions?
Okay. I'm very glad to be here this afternoon to meet the students, to discuss matters with our young friends. We are all retired. We are all retired, but still keep the interest in international relations, especially in China-US relations. This is a frank dialogue among academics, not officials. And so we can express our ideas in a freer and a frank manner without being afraid of committing ourselves. And we hope this kind of dialogue will help strengthen mutual understanding among the Chinese and the American people, especially the younger generation. As Ambassador Lu just now said, the future of China-US relations are in your hands. So we place high hopes on each of you here this afternoon. Thank you very much.
It is always great pleasure to meet professors and students, because in my whole life, I always feel myself as a student. I must study hard as the young students here do, and also learn from the respective professors. As Ambassador Lu just mentioned, we came here to exchange views with our counterparts, with people from different walks of life, to know more, better, and deeper about the United States. At the same time, we would like to let our US friends to know more deeper and better about China so as we can enhance our mutual trust, strengthen our cooperation, and further develop our relations for the benefit of the people of China and the US in particular, and the whole world at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll start with a couple of questions, and then we'll just take questions from the audience and have the open and frank exchange that we've been invited to have. As it happens, here at the Annenberg School, a great deal of emphasis is placed on exactly these kinds of exchanges. Our Center for Public Diplomacy focuses on these kinds of things, especially citizen-to-citizen exchanges. As it happens, Ambassador Lu has been in the past a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. That group is meeting right now in Beijing, part of the Yanghui. And we have a leadership transition in China. We have some transition here in the United States on foreign policy with the new Secretary of State, John Kerry, but of course, he serves President Obama, who was reelected. I was wondering if you could tell us what the foreign policy priorities are of China at this point.
Oh, yes, and it is really a very important juncture of time when the leaderships of the two countries are just placed in. And so the two sides are really very interested in trying to look at what kind of relationship we should manage and how we should proceed our relations better, in a better way. So it is really a very important time. Both sides should make efforts anyway. And as you know, last year we had our party's National Congress, and that was 18th Congress of the Chinese Communist Party. It was a very important event politically, economically, and in the people's daily life, because the Congress not only succeeded in having the Chinese leadership transition very well, smoothly done, but also have set out the policies which we are going to follow in the next, at least in the next 5 years to come. Generally speaking, the policy of reform and opening up domestically, the domestic policy will not change, but will be implemented further. That means reform will be deepened and opening up will be broadened. That's the general idea. Internationally, we shall continue to implement the independent policy of peace, as we have done in the past decades. And also, we have made it clear, in connection with China's quick development, we shall insist on carrying out the policy of peaceful development. That means we shall proceed to develop our country in a peaceful environment. And also we have made it clear that we shall continue to work for the peace, development, and cooperation. And we have laid quite more stress, emphasis on the win-win strategy, which we think a new element in the Chinese foreign policy. For win-win strategy, we mean that we shall work harder for not only the benefit of the Chinese, but also for everybody who are working together, including the United States. With that, we're trying to see that the next few years we shall have China's policy understood better, and with the cooperation of all the countries, we should work for the peace, stability, development, and prosperous of all countries in the world. Thank you.
May I add
Yeah.
one thing?
Yes.
Well, I agree with what Ambassador Yu just now said, but the Parties Congress also laid emphasis on the importance of building a cooperative partnership with the United States on the basis of mutual respect and the mutual respect. And we wish to explore ways to build a new type of a major power relationship with the United States. Because the significance of our bilateral relations has gone beyond the scope of bilateral relationship. It has exerted a great impact on the world peace and the security and the prosperity of all mankind. So I just want to add one thing, that we made a special mention of the importance of our bilateral relations.
Yes.
United States and China were put together, occupies 1/3 of the world's economy. 1/4 of world population, 1/5 of the international trade. So you can realize how important the bilateral relations is.
And we also, the two countries together produce 40% of all the gases that are changing the climate for future generations. So we definitely.
That's also an area the two sides can cooperate.
It's absolutely essential that we find ways to cooperate there. It was quite striking, of course, the emphasis on general continuity in China's foreign affairs, but wanting to emphasize this notion of win-win.
Yes.
And on a healthy relationship between the United States and China. Together with Dean Wilson, we've been involved with something called a binational commission looking at U.S.-China relations and issues of trust. And we have several times heard an idea expressed by our Chinese friends, a desire for a new relationship, for new thinking on the U.S.-China relationship. Could you expand on what would be new? What would you like to see that doesn't currently exist?
Let's look at the old type of major power relationship. The old power major relationship is full of friction, confrontation, rivalry, and so on. No matter whether they share the same political system or values, they treat each other as rivalries, adversaries, enemies. This kind of confrontation has led the world to 2 hot world wars and 1 cold war in the past several decades. Now we are going to, well, people think that this is a pattern that every emerging power will try to challenge the existing or established power of the world. But China wants to break the bottleneck of this old type of relationship. We want to work together with other major powers, especially the United States, to construct a new relationship, free of confrontations, featured by mutual cooperation. I think we have expressed this wish to the American leaders, and the leaders of our two countries have reached agreement that we will make our effort towards this end. This is the new kind of relationship and the new thinking. But the main obstacle to the construction of this relationship is lack of mutual trust. Or we say trust deficit, or mistrust, distrust among two countries. People in this country tend to look at China in a way as the former Soviet Union, which is want to challenge the dominance of the United States, want to surpass the United States, and seek world dominance. China has no such intent. To be frank, we have no such capability to change the United States. And to be frank with you also, the United States has no capability to contain China. China is a big country with number 2 economy and 1.3 billion people. And it's developing fast. How can you contain such a big country? No, I don't believe the United States government has the intention to contain China. There is a lot of talk of containment against China in the newspapers, in the medias. I don't believe. And I believe the prevailing view in my government is that we both want to work together. The United States will not contain China. China will not challenge the United States. That forms the basis of the new type of major country relationship. That's what I want to add.
Ambassador Lu, Ambassador Zhou, would you like to say
Yes,
something about this?
I think I agree with him, and that's one aspect of the matter. And the other aspect of the matter is that since the two countries' interests of the two countries are so closely interrelated and intertwined, it's difficult for the two countries to come to conflict in any area, because it's not good to neither. It's good to neither of us. And when one side is suffering from the conflict, and the other side will not be able to avoid the sufferings. So
the two countries or the interests are so intertwined. Interdependent.
Yeah.
There is a Chinese saying, 你中有我，我中有你. There is a little bit of
so it's
you in
difficult.
me, a little of me in you.
Yeah. So that's another reasoning that we have, is that it's better for the two sides to closer our relations from time to time, and not to come into conflict.
Thank you very much. You're absolutely right. Many Americans already think that China is an economic superpower. Last month, the Gallup organization polled Americans, and 53% said that China's in charge, that China is the world's leading economic force. But Ambassador Mei, you said that containment is impossible, and also, in your opinion, it's not the American policy to try to contain China. Do you think that the United States is in some way trying to limit China, in some way trying to curtail key interests that China has?
I think so, to a certain extent, because United States has never happy to see a country which is catching up to be the number two. And in the 50s, the Soviet Union, they treated it as a rival, and they tried to limit its power and do everything to contain it. And even in the years in the 30s, during the Second World War and so on, the United States is never happy to see a number two, a strong country. So in a certain sense, they will do something about that. And the U.S. pivot policy,
The pivot, the turn to Asia.
come back,
Officially, they don't call it a pivot anymore.
yeah, and return to Asia, and now they call it a balance, rebalance. Yeah. Anyway, they want to to strengthen the old military alliance with Japan, have a new military alliance with Australia.
Not new, also.
Military alliance by new measures by
new
sending
measures, yeah.
6,000 soldiers to station there on a permanent basis. They try to encourage India to challenge China. Anyway, they want other countries do something so that can make trouble and the United States itself will sit behind and let the others do all the job for him. That's what I feel about the policy.
Yeah, please.
But that is not containment?
No,
No.
no.
Oh, yeah, many,
And maybe in some people in this country want to contain China, but it's not the prevailing official policy.
is it possible that some of those deployments, that some of those strengthened alliances are meant to provide reassurance rather than to be confrontational? To reassure existing friends that the
Well,
United States remains.
China always welcomes the constructive role being played by the United States to help to maintain peace and stability is one of the constructive role United States can play. For instance, DPRK had its nuclear program, and it gives the excuse to Japan to develop its own nuclear weapons. But the United States stayed very quickly and openly said, you don't have to develop your own nuclear weapons. We provide you with the nuclear umbrella. You should feel secure. In a certain sense, it plays a role you just not mentioned.
Thank you. Let's turn now to your questions. And if you could, first of all, wait to be identified, and then when recognized, if you could give your name and then get right to a question. No speeches, please. Dean Wilson.
My name is Ernest Wilson. You've heard from me already. But I have two questions. The easy question, perhaps, is what concretely, what in specific, can Americans do and Chinese do together to reduce the level of mistrust? The second one is perhaps a little more difficult, which is that I think there's a difference between the search for hegemony and competition. I would say, and I'm speaking just as a professor, former official, but a current professor, is that the United States, I think, will be competitive with Germany, they will be competitive with Japan, they will be competitive with Canada, they will be competitive with Mexico, and they will be competitive with China. And it is in America's national self-interest to be competitive with China, just as it is in China's self-interest to be competitive with the United States. I think and I think that's something all countries do. And I sometimes feel that when I go and have free and frank discussions in China, the criticism is anything you do that we don't like is hegemony. And I want to ask you, what's the dividing line between genuine competition and the search for hegemony? So I ask you an easy question and a hard question.
I just say a few words and then let our experts to continue. For your first question, I think it's an easy question but difficult to answer. Because it covers very particular areas and very particular ways to make it concrete as to how to reduce or lessen the mistrust between the two sides, or to increase trust between the two sides. It is indeed, there is quite amount of mistrust between the two sides. That's why we are here, just to exchange ideas and informations, to increase the mutual understanding. I think this is one way that we come to each other from time to time to let each other know what we're thinking and what you are thinking, so that a mutual understanding could be increased. That's one thing. Second thing is, I think the exchange is not only between the scholars or officials, but people to people. Since nowadays, people talk very much about public diplomacy. Because public diplomacy requires that peoples or government organs or people of all walks of life should come together to exchange ideas and views to improve the understandings among peoples all over the world, to avoid conflicts, to avoid war, to strive for peace and to strive for progress, for commonly, or prosperity for everybody. And that's one of the concrete channels we should do. The other channel is that the governments, high leaders, should strengthen their belief that they shoulder the responsibility to help the world to go for the better future. And they should do their best to manage their relations with other countries in a proper way, so that people should proceed with their contacts in a correct manner. not in a conflict, not in mistrust. And I think that's also very important. And thirdly, we should increase our cooperation or in economic, in cultural, in science and technology, and in every other field, so that the cooperation in all those fields could benefit all of us, maybe could solve all the mistrust or bad feelings among the people, among the countries. I don't know whether that's, I think we can think out all the concrete ideas to strengthen the trust or confidence among all peoples. As for your second question,
about, is it possible that what some people in China describe as the United States seeking hegemony?
I think hegemony is there, and I don't think Americans would deny that completely that they are trying to maintain the hegemony. I don't think hegemony is not Americans' real state of affairs. The real state of affairs is Americans do want to maintain their hegemony in the world, no matter you deny or recognize, because you are number one, you are the only superpower in the world, and you have the say or final say on most of the international issues. You have the means to exercise influence on these issues. We in China have never tried to challenge your position, number one position, not only because we don't want to, but also because we don't have the ability. And we have too much things in China for the government and for the people to do before we can make our country an even better place. For instance, we achieved the goal of our national rejuvenation, or build a moderately prosperous society. We call it Zhou Gang. We still have a long way to go, because at the moment we have 128 million people living under the poverty line, or if in the UN criteria, that figure should be more. So it should be higher. So we have two huge tasks for us to tackle domestically even. Not to say we also have very much international obligations to perform, so as to show to the world that we are a responsible country. Actually, we are, and that we should maintain that state of responsibility. So, in a sense, the United States should we think should continue to play its constructive role in maintaining peace and prosperity and the way of development in the world. At the same time, we have made it clear, and we would like to have cooperation with Americans. And we have no intention of seek hegemony, or you say hegemony. No, our policy is that China will never seek hegemony in the world. They say, not in this generation, but in the generation to come, we will not. Even if China becomes a big power. And we don't know how long that road is. But anyway, the policy is there, and the Chinese tradition is there. We shall not. So we have the confidence that the relations between the two countries will be good between our two countries. And we shall have some competitive. We have never excluded the competitiveness within our relations. But we would like to see that competition should be peaceful and just. And we are sure of that.
I would like to say that in today's world, peace is a common wish and aspiration for all people throughout the world. And mutually beneficial economic development is a common strategy for all governments. And cooperation is a priority in the foreign affairs, foreign policy of different countries. But at the same time, the world is a small global village we are living on, is full of traditional and non-traditional security challenges. At this stage, I think the statesmen, the strategists, the think tank must seriously think about how to address these challenges all of us are facing today. I think it is a responsibility of all statesmen to let the people to live in peace, in harmony, in happiness and prosperity, to assure this world free from conflicts, war, also, we always for the equal rights among the members of the international community. All countries, big or small, rich or poor, weak or strong, must treat each other on the equal footings. But at the same time, we acknowledge the fact that the major powers, like you, the US, China, and others, not only G2, Russia, the other emerging economies, they bear more heavy responsibilities in this respect. That's why we are trying to build together with the United States, with other major powers, a new type of relationship between us. This relationship, as my colleagues just mentioned, must be based on mutual respect, on equality, on common development, on win-win cooperation, not treat each other as adversary or enemies. If we compete, we can compete in a friendly manner, on the rule-based. I think in ensuring this world lasting peace, sustainable development, and win-win cooperation, the United States and China must further develop and improve our relations as we have done during past 4 decades, since the normalization of relations in the beginning of 1970s. We at present have experience in developing our relations. We have such capability. We have such obligations to do so. I think, as two ambassadors just mentioned, China does not challenge the core interests of the United States, as we did in the past, during the Korean War, in the 60s, even in the 70s. You have your core interests, not only at home, but also in Asia Pacific and in the world at large, to be protected. But at the same time, we hope that the US must take into consideration the interests, the development, the security of other countries as well, so as we can hand in with hand to enter a new era, an era full of happiness, harmony, and prosperity. Thank you.
Mei Ping has something to add.
Well, I totally agree with what Ambassador Lu just now said. I just want to add one thing. To reduce the mistrust, to avoid misjudgment of each other's intentions, we should make good use of the existing consultation mechanisms. There are over 90 consultation mechanisms which are very helpful.
Between the United States
And China. And we include many hot issues, international or regional, like Asia Pacific affairs consultation. Recently, we add Middle East to the list of the topics. And we can add other things like climate change, like use of clean energy, like development of shale gas. You have the advantage of the technology, and we have a large deposit. We need your technology to develop them. So there are many areas of cooperation. If we tell the United States that we are going to strengthen our Navy presence in the South China Sea, we will tell you that our oil import, over 90% of the total, go through the Strait of Malacca. And we need to fight the piracy, to protect a safe route of supply. We need to raise a little bit of our Navy presence. Our intention is not to challenge the US Navy there. So this kind of consultation, this kind of information helps to reduce misjudgment, and reduce distrust. As Professor Wilson just now said, genuine competition. Genuine competition is a good thing. It helps us to make effort to catch up, to develop ourselves, to catch up with other advanced countries. Genuine and healthy competition is always a good thing. Yeah, that's good.
Just to pick up on what Dean Wilson suggested about mistrust and competition. In the past, economic relations actually formed a great deal of the trust. And in recent years, much of the mistrust in the relationship has grown out of our complicated economic relations. China is buying far more from the United States than it used to. Exports from the United States have gone up 5 times in the decade of WTO. Exports from China to the United States have gone up 4 times. So in fact, US exports have been increasing. But many American companies and many American trade organizations believe that China is not adhering to those rules that were mentioned, and that China is denying access to key industrial sectors. And of course, from the Chinese side, there are complaints about limits on being able to buy American technology or to locate businesses in specific places.
The only way to solve this trade imbalance issue is to, as we say, to enlarge the pie, to expand your export to China instead of restrictions on China's import. Did I make myself understood? Yeah. So it is not to restrict one country and, in this case, China. And because of your restrictions on your export of high-tech products, it's hard to balance our trade.
I heard some Chinese companies complaining. You see, we joined the WTO with the help of American experts and Australian experts and European experts. So our people knew quite well what the rules are taught by their teachers from America, from Australia, and Europe countries. They did quite well, quite smoothly in the first years. Though China had some difficulties in coping with what WTO would ask China to apply. But later on, they find it different from other countries like America, like Europe, like Australia, because they find the principles they were taught were just let's say the problems their teachers blame. Then they thought there might be some double standards which are applied to China. As I observe, it was true. When I was working in a country, they say China was the best country which abide by the rules and regulations of WTO. And then 2 years later, they suddenly changed the tone. And then saying China violated this and violated that. And then asked the same gentleman, I said, what was the reason for this sudden change? He laughed. He said, just because you China developed too fast. And your trade and your investment has made our people feel uneasy. That was exactly what he said. And in this context, I should be very, very much balanced in saying that we should try to discuss with our trade counterparts to see what kind of rules and regulations we should observe so that both sides will feel easy or happy. But of course, in trying to compete with each other in one area or the other area, there must be some people, some frictions to come across. But we have now tried to lay emphasis on win-win strategy. That means when China gets profit, we should take the interests of our trade partners into consideration. Likewise, when our trade partners get profit, they should try to take the interests of China into consideration. In so doing, I think this world will become a better world.
No, I have one thing to add.
Yeah.
Once I was attending top-level meeting between Chinese officials and the American officials. The issue of trade imbalance was brought up. Our then foreign minister and the deputy premier, Chen Chih-sen, said, "You ask us to balance trade. You want us to import large quantities of California oranges. We have already bought several thousand tons of oranges. Do you expect that Chinese people will live on these oranges?
We have almonds too.
And we want to purchase your airplanes. You refuse to give us. How can we bought the oranges we bought, the quantities, can buy a one Boeing 767 or some type of that airplane. Imagine how much we imported California oranges. So to balance the trade, we have to exchange what we have for what we don't have. What do we want? It's not the way to impose your things on the Chinese market. That's the point I want to make.
Yes, please, your name and then your question.
My name is Yu Zheng, and I am a Chinese student here studying public diplomacy. And Ambassador, you just mentioned public diplomacy. And my question is, I'm wondering about your view on public diplomacy and what's the role of PD in Chinese foreign policy in the next 5 years?
Public diplomacy has been quite popular topic, not only in China but in the world. I attended an international conference in London just 2 or 3 years ago, and I had several seminars in China here and there. And China has started to attach great importance to the unfolding of public diplomacy because simply because we in China have seen that Chinese image has been misinterpreted and Chinese information has been distorted here and there. And not because we are not doing well, just because we don't have that means and ways for telling people what is really going on in China. So we're trying to also carry out public diplomacy in an attempt to have more contacts with the world, or in a better way, to be interlinked with the world. And you see, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has set up a special branch under the Information Department on public diplomacy. And recently, a National Public Diplomacy Association has been formed. And with the former Foreign Minister, Li Zhaoxin, be its chairman. And most of the ambassadors are involved too. Retired ambassadors were involved. And also with some experts of various fields in China be incorporated. In this effort, the purpose is very simple: to let the world know China in its real image, and to know China in its real information. Of course, and we have to have more contacts with our counterparts in various countries, including the United States. Actually, we've already had quite some contacts and exchanges. And we have done something, but we think we still have a long way to go.
China has greatly, you folks, your visit is part of public diplomacy,
yes.
No question. And China's media is increasingly present in the United States. So tonight, I can watch news about the Lianghui, about the meetings in Beijing, not just from Western sources, but also from CCTV in both English and in Chinese. Yeah. These are broadcast on American television. China Daily distributes every day 170,000 copies of its newspaper.
Global Times.
The Global Times is also for sale and available, and a lot of people consume this. We can hear Chinese government state media on the radio. Here's a question. In China today, the New York Times is blocked. Bloomberg is blocked. And so while the United States is open to Chinese government views, it seems that right now, Chinese are not able to access these two sources of information.
I think on the whole, we have told the international community that Chinese voice in the world in general is relatively small, comparatively small. And you mentioned that the New York Times. I don't know much about that, but even if that's the case, the Chinese have 1,000 or 10,000 channels of having Western news media or the reporting from Western news media, even from China. So New York Times does not present any obstacle to the Chinese knowing outside world.
Then why block it?
We are not blocking the newspaper. We are blocking the particular journalist.
Journalists, yeah.
Understand?
Yeah. Even if
He
that's
changed his
yeah.
organization. Or
He changed.
Oh,
he
no,
should have
that's a
proceeded. That's different.
That's a
That's
different question.
That's a different question.
That's the, yes, he changed.
Even
Yeah.
we should not concentrate the particular case on that. That's not the case, because actually we have made it clear that all the journalists stationed in China should abide by the law and regulation of China. If a violation occurs and the Chinese government acts in accordance with the regulation and law, and our friends should not say anything about that. Just let that particular person or particular publication trying to observe the laws and regulations of China. I don't think China bans any journalists or publications just because they are from the United States, or they are just propagating or just spreading the Western idea or news or something like that. No. So you should proceed to look at the matter in this particular perspective. And if that's the case, you understand what that publication or this publication should try to improve. And likewise, Chinese publications and news people, when they are stationed in the United States, they should also observe the laws and regulations of this country. No exception. So if that's the case, I think that's quite understood.
I'll move on.
Thank you.
Yes.
So my name is Liu Shang. I'm also a Chinese student here in a program of journalism. My question is kind of a following up question of Clay's. So I understand that sometimes China is not happy with the image foreign media provides to the world. And I understand there must be some misinterpretations.
Provide what?
The foreign media is trying to picture to the world. So my question is, how can Chinese media...
Foreign media may not represent China the way...
Yeah. So how can Chinese media do a better job themselves to provide the correct and accurate and proper image of China to the audience of the world? Since I came here with the purpose or with the ambition of being a foreign correspondent for China at some point in the future.
Oh yes, I think since you are studying here, you should go back and try to do a better job, helping your colleagues in the Chinese group, and so that good pictures or suitable pictures can be presented to the international viewers. And I think I agree with you that we do have something to improve, so that they can be accepted by foreign receivers.
So from your opinion, what are the things that Chinese journalists should improve?
And you say that, for instance, some news reporting, and first, what kind of news are foreign receivers like best? And in what perspective they should be presented. And for instance, pictures, how they should take pictures which foreign viewers like and best. And not because to enjoy something, foreigners and Chinese do have some differences. I mean, their eyes, they with different eyes. And that's why we should improve our public diplomacy by trying to adapt the Chinese situation with other countries, so that we can be heard and we can be read in more correct and more enthusiastic atmosphere.
We have time for only just maybe one more question and a short answer.
Hi, my name is Melody Yuan, and I work with U.S. China Institute. My question, just out of curiosity, is with the recent death of Hugo Chavez, how will this affect foreign trade with China and Venezuela?
The only part of the world not represented on this panel.
And we've already sent our condolences on the passing away for the former president of Venezuela. And actually, I visited that country, though I did not meet him. Just 2 years ago, I found that the people there really had very deep affection for their leader. Of course, I know in America that he is not that liked, and but we in China, we think he's our friend, and the relations between China and Venezuela have been quite good, with some cooperation between the two countries. And we've maintained that good relations and cooperation just on the basis of 5 principles of peaceful coexistence. And our cooperation is based on mutual benefit. And with the change of the leader, I don't think we can foresee some changes because of the change of the leadership. Because the cooperation is on the basis of the mutual benefit. So we shall continue to do our best to develop friendly relations and cooperation with that country, even after Chavez is passing away.
No, I have a question to all of you. My impression is that the Chinese publications, newspapers, magazines, TV, and others, they have widespread coverage on the world events about other countries, their history, their economic development, their culture, their politics. But unfortunately, the foreign media has less coverage about China, especially in a comprehensive and objective way. It's my hope that our friends from the American press, the media as a whole, give more coverage about China, about a developing China, a new China, a friendly China, a peaceful China to the American people in more open-minded, objective, and comprehensive way to avoid prejudice. Thank you.
I think at the USC, U.S.-China Institute, I think that we are in complete agreement with that sentiment. It is our mission at the Institute to try to inform public discussion about, first, the importance of our relationship, the U.S.-China relationship, and also to inform discussion about how multidimensional that relationship is and how it's evolving. I think that today we've all been really very fortunate to have such experienced diplomats with us to share their point of view. Hopefully we can have maybe an informal exchange for a few minutes afterwards, but our friends have traveled quite some distance. I didn't want to ask the embarrassing question of to compare Los Angeles with Dallas or something like that. I'm sure the food and everything else is much better here. But I hope that you will join us in expressing our great appreciation for their presence and the expertise that they have shared.